Hi, everybody. Jaki Sabourin here, and I wanted to make you a date night video on three reasons why women push men away. And so today I'm really excited because I'm here live on YouTube and live on Facebook, and I've got my tech set up so I can connect with all of these platforms at the same time. So this is really fun for me. So ladies, anytime during the broadcast, please feel free to add questions in the comment box so that I can give you some coaching, live coaching in the moment. And I'm happy to do that for you. So I wanted to talk to you about three reasons why we push men away. Because I think that a lot of it is unconscious. We don't mean to do it, but we still do it, and it sabotages our efforts. And so the first one that I want to talk to you about is that they're really subtle. These are subtle things that we do to push men away. And the first one is that I think that we go to the end of the story. We really want to be in a relationship and we meet somebody we like, or even on a first date. And during that first date, we'll get into kind of what I call it magical thinking. We'll start to project that something that's going on, maybe he hasn't even revealed who he is yet, or you've even gotten to the point where you even know whether it's a fit or not, but because you're so wanting love in your life and you've been longing to make that connection, that you'll start to fantasize and go into magical thinking. And we all do it. I mean, look at all the Disney movies that we've seen over our lifetime. And we've been programmed to believe that everything's going to end up happily ever after. And I'm not saying that it won't. It's just that when we start to go into that fantasy mode, the magical thinking, it takes us out of the present moment, which is where all of our power is. When we go into that thinking, we leave the present moment where the man is to see what signals he's giving us, and in that process we miss those signals. So it's so important to stay present on your dates and when you're dating a man, so that you can really connect to what's really going on. So don't go to the end of the story. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't project. Excuse me. Don't project into the future before you get a chance to really know a man. You might discover that he's not right for you, and or perhaps you're not right for him. And maybe he's not sending you the signal that he's really that interested in you, and then you end up getting really hurt. That's another reason why you don't want to go to the end of the story, because you can become very disenchanted and disappointed with dating in that process. And so before I go on to the other two things that we do as women to push men away, I want to say hi to all my wonderful ladies on YouTube. I love you on Facebook, but it's so fun to be here on YouTube. And I just wanted to say hi to you. Don't get hooked on the outcomes. Yeah, great comment. Oh, good. And so I like what the comment that I was just reading is, don't get hooked on the outcomes. That's a great point. I want to just talk into that a little bit more. And so we project an outcome because we do desire to be in a relationship, and there's nothing wrong with longing. Of course, that's what our desire is. We continue to follow these desires. But when we get attached to an outcome, so we really want this outcome with this person, we start to cling to that outcome, and when we don't have that outcome, we subsequently experience a really deep disappointment, which could cause a bunch of problems for you. The energy of discouragement and disappointment is really heavy energy, and when we have that, we can get a little desperate. And so we always want to remember to plug back into ourselves in the dating process. When you're left with that feeling of disappointment, somebody doesn't call you back, or it doesn't turn out the way you thought it would. So I want you to notice what I just said. It doesn't turn out the way you thought it was going to. So your mind's always seeking for zones of safety. And so it's thinking, your mind is, because you're not your thoughts, right? You just have them. It's thinking about an outcome that it wants. So it starts to attach to the outcome. And you're not even a part of that. Your mind's doing its own busy work up here, attaching to outcomes. And then when the outcome that your mind thought that it was supposed to happen doesn't happen, you become really disappointed. But if you think about the logic in that, there's no way that we get to know what the outcome's going to be. We have to stay in the great unknown. And I love talking about the unknown because it truly is where you need to partner. You need to partner with the unknown, because that's where all the magic of life is. We really don't know. And we don't know. And so we have to sit in that unknown. And it's really uncomfortable because we don't know and we want to know so much. And the reason why we want to know is because our mind is always seeking zones of safety. Its job is to keep us safe. And so it wants to know what the next step's going to be so that we can feel safe. But there's really isn't safety in that projection, because it's just all an illusion, right? It's not even real. And so the safety that you're going to experience is staying in your body, staying in the be here now, where all your power is. And so let's look at okay, I'm just reading some of the comments now. And I know some of you don't like it when I stop and read the comments and say hi, but this is the way I roll in the live videos. I want to make them interactive. So yeah, they're not the straightforward videos that I make, that I edit and add in the text. So these Thursday night videos are designed to connect with you. And so please forgive me, those of you who get frustrated with me stopping and talking, but I really want to, like I said, make them interactive and connect with all of you. And you're welcome, Kendra. And so I'm just reading some of the comments. Woman, has this happen on several times? Just need to move on and say to yourself, next, right? You have to next, go on. And so the second thing that we can do that can push men away is, again, it's kind of like going to the end of the story, but it's starting to unconsciously attach to a man. Because we like him. And it usually happens if you have sex before you get that commitment. You might start to attach, make assumptions. You might start to assume that you're his girlfriend, or assume that he's going to spend time with you on the weekend, or make these assumptions about where the relationship is. And I always encourage you to just go ahead and let a man lead that. If you enjoy his company and you like what's happening, you want to see what he's going to do. And he'll show you very quickly who he's going to be in the relationship if you allow that to unfold and stop trying to attach to him and to an outcome, because he senses that. And in sensing that, what can happen is he can feel pressured by you, and you're not even meaning to pressure him. You just like him. You like what's happening, so you're wanting to show him. So you're being maybe more affectionate. You're pursuing him a little bit more because you want to let him know that you really like him. And a lot of it's unconscious. And in that process, what happens is you become the pursuer, and you don't even mean to. So maybe you're wanting to know, what he's doing this weekend, or asking him questions about, or expecting him to show up in a certain way. And he starts to back up because he's like, I'm not having even made my mind about you. You've always obviously made your mind up about him. And you kind of got ahead of yourself, just like with the first one I shared, is going to the end of the story. And so it shows up in really subtle things that we do, being overly affectionate, overly needy. We start to feel a little more insecure, and we start to maybe create problems for ourselves that don't exist, because we're uncomfortable, again, with sitting in the unknown in relationships. But you have to allow the relationship to unfold organically and try not to steer it. To feel safe. So the reason why, again, we want to steer the outcome is because it's all about going back to seeking zones of safety, because we feel more comfortable in the predictable, in the knowns in life, in the things that already have happened, but there's no evolution in that. So we really have to, again, partner with the unknown and stay in that place where we don't really know what's going to happen. It can go either way, but there is some excitement. So sometimes there's a lot of fear that comes with relinquishing our need to control. We can kind of sit in that fear that comes with it. But if you look at it, sometimes the fear can be just excitement. And so it is a little scary to be in the unknown with a man, but it's also exciting because anything's possible in that unknown place. It's just when we stick to that rigid thinking of how it should be that we get into trouble. And so I'm just reading the notes again. I just kind of ignore the guys, and I don't know if that's correct. If they don't call me back, I don't call. Is that okay to do it? Well, maybe a better word would be, and she's asking, should you just ignore men? The better word would be just to observe them. instead of ignoring them, you're just observing them. You're just watching. You're the watcher. That is a very feminine quality, is to be the observer, the witness, watching, not needing to control. So watching to see where things going without needing to reach in and try to control things. And so because I really believe that men do need a certain amount of engagement from us. We need to give them some signals. And so there is a balance between pursuing and then giving them the positive reinforcement that we want them to continue to pursue us. So I guess how that would show up is by expressing interest. It's like, hey, after a nice date, you could, on the same night, I would recommend, if you'd like, to reach out and say, thank you so much for a wonderful dinner. I really enjoyed myself. Thanks again. And so I wouldn't maybe wait till the next day. I would do it in that night so that it's not like you're looking for him to reach out to you the next day. So, if you have a good time with a man, it's okay to reach out and let him know. But I like I say, I'd like to see you do it the same day of. So it's showing men that you're grateful for what they're doing for you, and how they're showing up, but without a need that they do anything further. You're not looking for them to reciprocate that. It's pure and unconditional gratitude. So you're giving without expecting something in return. And when you do that, they really can sense it. So it's not about ignoring. It's just about acknowledging them, but not expecting that they reciprocate. But then, if they do, it feels really wonderful. And then it's really more organic and more authentic and more genuine. And so, good. Okay, we've got a man weighing in that reaching out the same night is good. Yeah, don't go alpha on a man that you like. So what would that look like, guys? What would it look like when a woman, and I love this because we have some men in the feed right now giving us some good feedback. What would it look like, guys, if a woman goes all alpha on a man? How would that look to you? Can you give us a couple examples? Because I think that would be really beneficial for the women that are watching. And so the third thing that we can do, I'm waiting for that. Let the guy lead, he said. Let the guy lead. Right. Don't try to steer things. It's okay to suggest where you'd like to go, but let him choose it. Let him lead that. And if he makes a suggestion, say, great. Great. I'd love to go there, because you want to see what he's going to do. That's why you don't want to interfere with that process. I think men are natural leaders. I think it's women who we have, through our careers and through raising children, we get a little bossy, and we're used to being in control. And so we forget to take that hat off and relax into that art of allowing on dates. Okay, that's good. Hello, fellas. Let the guy lead, but let him know you like him, is what the feedback I'm getting. And act like they belong in a kennel when they don't get their way. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to move on to the third thing that women do to push men away. And I'm actually really just like drawing from my own experience right here. I think that making assumptions, and I already said it, is a really big one. I think that I've made an assumption before in a relationship. Before I was married, I really liked this man that I was dating, and he had told me that he was just getting over a relationship and he wasn't ready for anything serious, right? But I didn't hear that. I didn't want to hear that because I really liked him. So I pretended that I didn't hear that. I kind of pushed that in the back of my mind, and I made all these assumptions about him and I together, because he's a wonderful person, and I thought we would make a good couple. And so instead of being sensitive to what he was going through, processing this breakup, it was a couple months out, but I just ignored it and started to proceed in a way that we were a couple. And what that did is that pushed him away really fast. So he ghosted me. And this is after a really great weekend we spent together in a beautiful hotel, a beach. We went surfing. It was wonderful. And then I never heard from him again. And I was like, devastated, right? And it was like, what did I do? Well, I went to the end of the story. I made all these assumptions. I put so much pressure on this guy that he couldn't even make his mind up about me because I was already, a couple and he hadn't even gotten there. So I definitely was taking the lead on that. And that made him really uncomfortable. And I look back now and I go, wow, I can see how uncomfortable that would make anybody. And how I was in my masculine energy, and I really got hurt. But he didn't hurt me; I hurt myself. I abandoned myself in that relationship for the relationship. So I stopped caring about how I was feeling and was focused more on trying to make this work. And in that process, he probably lost a little bit of respect for me. And so that was a painful experience. And one that really served me because pain is the motivator to change. I realized that right away. It was only like 48 hours later. I went the whole week and didn't hear from him and I figured it out. And then I was like, I started to process what really was going on and looking at my behavior. And I remember I had bought a bunch of clothes for that weekend and taken them with me, and had them in the closet and the price tags were still on. It was like I was pretzeling myself to become some idea of what I thought he wanted. And that was just a big turnoff to him, apparently. So I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that I did that. And I didn't do that again. So in a way, excuse me, I learned a lot from that experience. And I'm glad he ghosted me because I need to wake up, stop going unconscious and turning myself into a pretzel to please some guy that wasn't even into me. Okay. You ever been there, ladies? So, now I'm going to answer some questions and just free flow the rest of the call because I want to interact with you. There is sex and there is intimacy. Agreed. That's a great comment. Yes, there's sex, which is a great experience. We all like that. And the thing with sex is women, we want to make these assumptions that things are different than they are. Instead of just enjoying the pleasure of the act, we want to attach labels to it and make it something more meaningful. And that's the way we roll. And so if you really get attached easily, I recommend sleeping with men until you both agree that you're on the same page. And that will clear that up. And I didn't do that. Okay. That's a mistake that I made. So I like this. The worst thing about single moms, one of the men is posting, is that they're not reliable because they can cancel plans because of their children. Yes, I remember doing that. So you can blame things on your children so that you can get out of going on dates. So it might be that they're really just using their children as an excuse. I used to do that. That was a great thing about having kids at home. I could use my kids as an excuse for everything. So yeah, it makes you a little bit flaky, right? And so you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt because when you are a mother, you do have to put your kids first. And that's something that a man has to understand if you're dating a woman, especially with younger children. And the children have a lot of needs. And one of the reasons why I waited till my daughter was in high school to really start dating. That's when I met Michael. You're welcome, Julie. Yeah, we've all done things like that. I'm not ashamed of that experience because, like I said, it taught me so much. And I'm grateful. And I can easily share with you because I've healed. I don't feel anything about it anymore because I've processed and released the shame, the embarrassment, the humiliation, the self-blame. I've forgiven myself. I forgive him, forgive myself, and I moved on. Though it's easy to share from a more empowered place when I'm not in that blame, shame, victim mentality that we can get stuck in. And it's better to let that go and to learn from it. And then they're life lessons, and they're really teachers. So he was a great teacher for me, and I acknowledge that, and I'm grateful, and I thank him for that. And that right after I went through that experience, what I did was I recognized my behavior pretty quickly, and instead of beating myself up, I decided to let him go. I mean, I felt like I was totally in love with this person. And I'm like, how can I be totally in love? I've abandoned myself. So I let him go really quickly so that I could allow somebody else to come in. And one of my clients recently gave me this wonderful metaphor. And she said, it's like a series of doors. Men are. You have to go through these doorways. You meet a man, and he came there to teach you something that you really needed to learn, like I did with that man. And as soon as I got the lesson, there was no need for the pain of that experience nor that person. So the door opened to the next person behind him. And the sooner you can walk through that door, the faster you can meet the one you're supposed to be with. So you want to learn those lessons quickly. And I recognize that because I've been in this situation before, and I'm like, okay, I need to move on from this and release this attachment and recognize the lesson. And as soon as I did, I met Michael. And I want to tell you guys, today is our 4th wedding anniversary. We got married 4 years ago on September 13th. And we're celebrating this weekend. But I'm so happy that I met Michael because I didn't pretzel myself when I met him. I let him pursue me. I allowed things to unfold more organically. But we lived next door to each other for a whole year before we met. We actually shared the same our parking garage doors were next to each other. And we lived in the 2nd floor in 2 separate buildings that were like almost touching. But I never met him. And that's the power of online dating. After moving 3 blocks away, I went online and met him. And so I think that online dating is really incredible. I really encourage all of you who haven't really had a successful experience with online dating to give it a chance, because you probably weren't recognizing the great self-help platform that it is, how much you can learn about yourself in the process. And you probably be taking things really personally, and you haven't learned that skill set. It's a higher socially skilled skill set. That's hard to say. That you have to embark on this journey of socially skilled to navigate through it. You're right. It can be really hard on your ego. You can have that feeling of rejection a lot. But I like to look at rejection as redirection. It's not a rejection. It's just a redirection. And you're constantly, all roads lead back to you. And it helps you to master, all the parts of you that you need to grow in, because those parts are going to get triggered in all your dating experiences. And so if you look at it as an opportunity to grow yourself, then and to learn from your mistakes. So if you're not having success on online dating, then I would say one thing that you need to look at is your profile and your profile pictures, because online dating moves really quickly. And my favorite site right now is Bumble. I think Bumble is fantastic for women. I don't know, men, how you feel about it, but thank you. Yay, I'm so excited about my anniversary. My husband is just a wonderful man. And I have to say that I'm going to go back to Bumble, but the biggest thing about my relationship and why I'm still married and happy, very happy, is that we have really good communication. Communication is the cornerstone of our relationship. Anytime there's an issue or a challenge, we have agreed to talk about it within a week. After a week, it expires. You can't bring it up. So there's no scorekeeping. And so we're always processing what's coming up for us, if anything. So that channel is always open. I literally have no little grudges against my husband. And that's really helpful in life, is not to hold on to things. And I think as humans, we naturally want to cling to everything. And again, goes back to seeking those zones of safety. So communication, work on your communication skills. It's the biggest gift you could give yourself. And so Bumble is a new Tinder, all looking for sex. I disagree because, and here's why. So here's why I don't agree with that statement. That's a belief. And if you are approaching it from a place that you want a committed relationship and your profile speaks into that, and you get that, you have to just swipe left on those men and just next them, and don't take it personally. Yes, because if you're focusing on that all men want sex and it's just like Tinder, then in fact, a lot of my clients are using Tinder and Bumble and having great results. Then you're going to attract more of that. What you focus on expands, and what you remove your attention on disintegrates. So if you focus on the fact that, yes, there's a lot of men out there that want sex only, then you're going to have more of that. But if you recognize that there's a balance, there's a lot of people that want sex only, good for them, right? But it's not you. And then there's a whole bunch of men and people and women that want to have a relationship. There really are. Your job is to weed through them as quickly as possible and not get stuck in these emotional ruts when it doesn't feel good when somebody, you know, plays that sex card. You get stuck there, and it glues you to that experience. And so you have to be willing to release those people really quickly and not overthink that. So I know it's hard. It's hard because sometimes you could be really offended by their behavior, but you have to look at why you're taking it personal to begin with. If you're taking things personal, then you have to remember that it's not personal unless you make it personal. It doesn't have to be about you. It could just be about them. Could just be where they're at. But when you bring it in and you make it personal, you personalize it, and then it just affects you. So if you can just acknowledge that, yes, you're going to encounter men that are just looking for sex, and you just want to keep moving. Ignore those men. I had plenty of men like that were obnoxious, right? That were saying things that were inappropriate. And I was just like, okay, next. Next is your power word. And because the quicker you move through it, the less likely you get stuck in feeling bad about those things. So just make sure that your behavior is above reproach. That means that you're not succumbing to that low level thinking. And I think you're going to attract more men that are on that same wavelength with you. And so let me read this one. What special line can one put on a profile to show that I want a serious relationship but not run away from him? Great question. So I think that you can say that something like, I've never been more ready for a great guy like you. So you want to compliment men right out the gate. I'm looking for my last great love affair. Could this be you? And then you kind of speak into the positives like that, and then what else could you say? So I think that you speak into what you want. Like I like complimenting men right out of the bat on those dating apps because they move quickly. One of the great openers, and I'll give you my classic opener, is on these dating apps that you can use. It's really cheesy, but I've found that it works really well. And when you match with somebody on Bumble, you can use, what's a great guy like you doing in a place like this? So it's just a cheesy one-liner, but you know what? Men gives them a chuckle. So remember, dating apps move really fast, and your job is to keep it light and fun. It's not your job to go deeper and heavy in the first interaction. You don't even know if you like the guy, so make it fun and easy. And so the cheesy little statements kind of break the ice and make it easier for everybody to jump into the conversation. Or you could say things like, fancy meeting you here. Just some cheesy. Sometimes they block you when you compliment them. Okay, well, so what? That's not your guy. Another big power word in dating is so what? So what? So what if they block you? Next, good, thank you. One less person I have to think about if he's right for me. You just have to have these empowering words. So put little yellow stickies on your computer that say, so what? Or what's a great guy like you do in a place like this? Or fancy meeting you here? Because I'd usually open the dialogue and get the ball rolling. Okay. Perhaps they are, Karen, maybe they are. She made some comments here. I'm not gonna repeat them out loud, but there maybe men make comments that they want to see what they can get away with. But so what? So what? Just move on. Don't get caught up in that. Don't allow that to trigger you. Keep your value up high. When you go to that level and you interact with them, you're actually bringing yourself down to that low level thinking. There's people like this everywhere, but you don't have to align with them. So basically it's like a fly. Picture it this way. There's a fly buzzing around this guy, the jerk that's saying the inappropriate comments. And instead of looking turning and looking at the fly, which means you're taking your focus off what you're doing, you just wave the fly away, right? When you're eating a corn on the cob at a picnic, you don't there's flies around you. You're not looking at the fly. You go like this, right? You don't look at him, because remember, what you focus on expands. So I want you to use a corn on the cob and fly analogy. When there's men that you don't, just wave them off, wave them off. Don't make them your focus, because it takes you out of the now. I hope that helps you. It's just all these little tips and mastery tools you need to apply so you don't get stuck in dating ruts. So let me answer one last question, then I'm going to conclude the broadcast. What about men pursuing women? Shouldn't it be that way? Don't they like the chase? Most men do, but some men, there's all different kinds of men, just like there's all different kinds of women. And some women do like to pursue and do pursue, and some men enjoy that. Maybe you'd call that a beta male. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You just have to decide what works for you. And if you like to take the lead and you're a woman and you've been in your masculine energy and it's worked for you, then you're going to find a man that's used to that. Maybe he likes strong women, and that might be a balance for you. I mean, and so I'm not going to say it's good, bad, wrong, or right. It just is in some cases. But if you want to be pursued by a man, then you have to not pursue. You have to be willing to sit in your feminine energy, and you have to be willing to go with the flow. So I'm going to answer one more question. What if a guy you're talking to on the phone asks you what you are doing? Let me go back to that. What you are, I'm just looking on Facebook here to see what the rest of this question. What if your guy you're talking on the phone asks you what you're doing this evening or tomorrow? Well, I can't see the rest of it on the live broadcast, but I'm going to speculate what you're saying, Jill. If you're talking to a guy on the phone and he asks you what you're doing tonight or tomorrow, and say you have plans, then you just say, I've got a couple things lined up. Why do you want to know? So you can bounce that question right back to him. You don't have to give him a direct answer unless you're in a relationship with him, because you're an adult. You don't answer to him. But you can be a little coy because you don't want to tell him if you have a date with another man. And if he makes that assumption, then so be it. And say, I'm busy, but I am free on XYZ, fill in the blanks for him. And so I hope that helps you. And you have a date. So yeah. So just say, I'm not available. I'm busy. I've got some other plans lined up. But why do you ask? Are you wanting to take me out? So you can play with him a little. I mean, it's fun. That banter is fun. But don't tell him you have a date. It's not his business. And if he asks you if you have a date, you say, well, I am dating. And so you're not avoiding it, but you're not giving him the direct answer. You can say, well, I'm dating. I'm on the phone with you, so I'm online, so I'm dating. So maybe. So yeah, until somebody scoops you up and thank you, Jill, and wants you to be exclusive, you're dating. And I would not give him any information. If that information is on a need to know basis, and he doesn't need to know unless he's your boyfriend. Okay, one more question. I love this. Yes, I second Melanie's question about respectful men pushing boundaries. Would a respectful man ask for naked pictures? No way. That's where you draw the line. A respectful man will not, and that's not pushing the boundaries. I'll give you an example. A respectful man pushing the boundaries is like my husband on my first date, where he put his hand on my leg and I put his hand off. I'm like, slow down, cowboy. And I took his hand and put it on his leg. He's a man. I'm a woman. He was pushing the boundaries, and I playfully put his hand back where it belonged. And we kind of had a hand squirmish, but it was fun. And he respected my boundary, but he did test a little bit, right? And so that was okay because he stopped. And but the man that's asking for naked pictures, that's a whole different thing. And so you can either say it's inappropriate comment, and I'm not even going to dignify that at the request with an answer. I don't know if we're on the same page here. I mistook you for a gentleman. I would give him such a hard time for that if you like him. Otherwise, you might just consider blocking and deleting him. But if you like him and you want to give him a chance to save face, then you can say, I'm a little disappointed. I thought so much more of you until you asked me for that. So for me, I wouldn't go there because I've been in a place where I would actually get into arguments with men. That was the before the new empowered version of myself that you're seeing now. I would argue with a man about something like that. I would get downright angry and start an argument because I wasn't evolved to where I am now. And you don't want to waste your time and energy on something like that. So no, to answer your question, um, not appropriate. And because your value, I'll tell you why it's not appropriate. Naked pictures, there's nothing wrong with it, but your value isn't in your sexuality. Your value isn't in your body. You're so much more than that. Okay. Ladies, you are so much more than your physical form, the beauty you bring, the joy, the presence you bring, the wisdom you bring. That's where your value system is. It's in how you feel about yourself and knowing that your value isn't in your body. I used to objectify myself sexually. And what I mean by that is that I thought that because I was attractive and had a nice body, that that's why men liked me. And that was I needed to always lead with that. And so I always needed to put that out there. And of course, I attracted men that wanted sexy pictures of me. And I was just so tired of that. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing. But one of my coaches years ago said that you're objectifying yourself sexually and that your value isn't in that. And I was like, the light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my God, it was so much relief. But it was also really painful to hear that I had been a sex object my whole life. And that came from the abuse that I experienced. That's what I learned. I learned it's a learned behavior. I'm learning, oh, this is what gets my needs met. I can objectify myself sexually and get the attention that I want. It was so shallow and it didn't get the kind of attention I really longed for, which is respect, love, acceptance, all of those things. But until I gave myself the love and respect and the acceptance, how could I ask somebody else to do that for me? So your value isn't in your sexuality. It's not in your body. It's not in your looks. It's wonderful to have a great body, to have wonderful looks, but your value is in your spark. You're connected to this great stream of consciousness. Your identity needs to be in who you really are, your authentic self. And from that place, you'll get the respect that you want from men when you respect yourself, like I did. So I hope this helps. Ladies, it's so nice to connect with you here. Hi, Dinah. And thank you for your patience of me going back and forth with the chat here. And I'm just sending you all so much love. I'm going to send out pictures. If you're not on my database, make sure you go to myjakisabourin.com and sign up for my ebook or take my soulmate assessment so that you can get on to my email list, because I'm going to be sending out pictures for after our anniversary dinner, about my dinner on Saturday. I'm going out to the Marine Room here in La Jolla. It's on the same beach that we got married on. And we're going to have a nice romantic dinner. And that's what we're going to do. And that's enough. So I hope you all enjoyed this broadcast. Thank you for being here. I'm just sending you all so much love. And I mean that. I really am. And just don't ever give up. It'll happen for you. I promise you. It will happen for you. It can't not happen if you don't give up, right? Okay. Fail your way to the top if that's what you have to do. Lots of love to you. Bye. Bye, Leslie.